Hello, friend. Welcome to 10 Bestest, where we sift through the noise so you don't have to. I'm Karen McFarland-Holman.
And I'm Brian Hart.
Today, I am going to share about the transformational Project 562.
And I'm going to share an informative podcast for editors and film lovers. Let's get to it.
My cool sheet is art and culture, something to do with art and culture. Oh, I love this. This is Project 562. This is created by Matika Wilbur. Project 562 is a multi-year national photography project. It is dedicated to photographing over 562 federally recognized tribes in the United States. That's where that number comes from. The project is updated regularly on her website, project562.com, and these photos, they are absolutely stunning. Some of the most stirring and beautiful photographs I have ever seen in my life, actually. So be sure to check this out. Her style is a mix of black and white and color, with the subjects being in the foreground in color and background, which is usually a landscape, is in black and white. And it's not just the photos that make this project so special. Project 562 is an unprecedented display of oral histories along with the images that accurately portray contemporary Native Americans. Thus far, Matika has visited members of over 300 sovereign nations throughout 40 states, as far northwest as Alaska, southwest in Arizona, southeast in Florida, northeast in Massachusetts, and most of the states in between. Through her lens, along with her connection to these people, we are then able to see the diversity, the vibrancy, and the realness of Indian country. Part of Matika's goal is to show these stories and then challenge and surpass stereotypical representations. She hopes that Project 562 will refresh the national conversation about contemporary Native America. For example, there's this gorgeous photo of young Bazanoni Tso, a Navajo, sitting in front of the holy San Francisco peaks near Flagstaff, Arizona. And these peaks are part of the Navajo people's 4 sacred mountains. And this is in response to the city of Flagstaff and their proposed use of what they want to do with reclaimed water. So please take a look at Project 562.
Oh, this is so cool. So you talked about their podcast, right? This is from their podcast, and what's the name of it again?
Yeah, Real Relations. Oh my gosh, you know what it's like on the spot.
Yes, we'll put it.
Real Relations.
Yes.
Oh gosh.
Yes, I think that's. So as I was gathering notes for the website and things like this, and I was finding out more information about the host, I was like, oh, well, that's definitely a cool sheet.
Oh, yes.
Maybe I should talk to Karen to see if I could talk. And I'm like, oh, no, wait. She did say that one of these people, she was going to be a future cool sheet. Yes. And I was like, oh, yeah, this has got to be it, because this project is amazing. Yes. So I'm so glad to see it again this week, to see you talk about it.
Oh, for sure.
Because it is so great. And I was mesmerized. You just the second you look at it, you're like, oh, click, what's this about? And then that's it. Just say goodbye to an hour at least.
Oh, yeah.
Of just pure joy, because it's beautiful, it's informative.
Yes.
It's so many different things. It checks so many different boxes of things that I love. And I just really enjoyed my experience there. Yeah. So I can't wait to check it out even further.
And I love it right now. So we're in November 2021. There's been about 300, but we know it's Project 562. So we know there's a lot more to come. So it just, cool. The richness, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, it's so good. And I can't wait to keep checking it out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
And 10bestest.com/countdown to find all of our cool sheets and the notes for those.
I will definitely go back to that one, because I just got to dabble in it, because then I was like, okay, I got to start editing again, and I got to go back, and I'm like, I'm going to check that out again.
Yes.
So it's worth it. I'm going to be talking about a podcast, and this podcast is called Once Upon a Timeline. So Once Upon a Timeline is a creative editing podcast by the people that run Inside the Edit. So I talked about Inside the Edit in episode 160 on our podcast. That is a subscription-based website and online training portal where you can learn how to be a better editor. The great thing about this podcast is that it is free. And it has great tips on editing as a professional. But I also think that hardcore movies lovers would love this. I think film students would like this. People that love film theory, maybe the people that listen to the commentator's track when watching a film. I think storytellers would like it because a lot of editing, you're weaving a story from footage. So how to tell a better story. I think you can glean a lot of insight from this, even if you're not a professional editor. But if you are, then of course this podcast is for you. And that's why I love it, because I edit as my day job. So it's a weekly podcast. They do take a break, but they just started the 3rd season. And there's 20, maybe 19, 20-ish per season. So there's a backlog right now, and it's ongoing. These episodes include the power of editing, the greatest fallacy in editing, essential skills for the self-shooter. Very good one. Very specific, but very good. How to design character behavior on screen. So again, this is where I think you could get more insight on just how they're telling this character's behavior on screen, how that process, I think it can make you enjoy film better. He has different pro editors on his podcast, so then they'll go more in depth of their process and things like that. Method cutting in character, cultivating memories for editing, how to streamline our sequence, journalistic compression, building creative freedom, sharpening our will, so many different things. I ran out of time. Just definitely, if you like film, it might be worth a look to check out Once Upon a Timeline.
I will say, as not an editor, or at least very much, I love the idea of this as just like seeing behind the scenes, because of course I love watching movies, I love watching videos, and just seeing how people do it, how you do it, how all of they do
I think it, and the one thing when I talked about Inside the Edit, I was like, this is pretty niche for filmmakers and for editors, and it is. But the podcast, I think, is a lot more open to just film lovers, storyteller, like I said, all of those things that I think might gleam. And you might look at one and like how to, construct a timeline. That might not be as interesting. But this like building character, some of these more universal topics, I think would be really interesting for a lot of different people. So
Right. So is the podcast on regular podcast outlets as well as YouTube, or is it just
I don't know. I don't
audio?
think it's on YouTube at all. I think it's just your favorite podcast app, whatever you get. If you look for Once Upon a Timeline, you'll find it there. I think it's on all of those. You might check though. I'll put a link on our show notes if it does have a YouTube channel as well. But it's a great source of information. It's like I said, if you are an editor, it's a gold mine. A gold mine of free information, of creative editing that is just not really found. And that's why I like the website so much. There's a lot about how to use this button, 10 best shortcuts, how to use Final Cut, how to use Premiere, how to use Avid. There's all of that, but there's nothing about the actual creative process. And like what makes a good story, how to craft that as an editor. And again, that's in anything in the world. We're telling stories right now on this YouTube channel. So I think we can glean info from it. And I think a lot of people out there can. So,
exactly. And this is a good reminder that we are on both YouTube and on all of the podcast platforms.
Yes, absolutely.
So. Thank you for joining us, friend. I'm Karen McFarland Holman.
And I'm Brian Hart.
Let us know in the comments, how many sovereign nations can you name?
And let us know what's your favorite podcast right now.
If you're enjoying the show, please give us a like and share it with a friend.
Stay tuned next week for another great series of shows.
And don't forget to stay curious.